Welcome to Engedrian. If this is your first time listening, or even if you are returning, be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you are enjoying our adventure. Let's see what happens next. Having started their exploration of the three ancient city entrances with the tunnel on the far left, the party dealt with some mind-invasive monsters and then a band of fiery lizards that left Inacel shaken. Inacel, back to her calm and thoughtful self, inspects the bodies and then begins moving them with the help of others to one of the smaller collapsed rooms filled with debris and dirt. Inacel casts Mold Earth repeatedly. As she clears the dirt and debris to the side in this room, the others lay the bodies across the floor in an orderly pattern. She adds flowers, herbs, and shiny stones to each body. She spends the better part of an hour moving large collections of dirt and debris from the other rooms into this one. The rest of the party stands guard with their familiars at distance as a watch. When she is done, the small room is filled with an arm span of debris and dirt, completely covering the bodies. She turns to the group and smiles.
Thank you. We should rest now.
The party nods and moves back into the smaller room. Sister, Filigree, Slipknot, and Hestia move out of the room and take up positions at each of the main tunnel passageways and the side passageways from the constrictor room so that no movement into the area will go unnoticed. When everyone is inside, Case and Fodinas place Malaysia's door in the frame and then wedge the other shields in the sides to tightly secure it.
I know we were thinking of a short rest, but I'd suggest we take a long rest, okay?
Umgren looks around for general approval and sees 6 pairs of very grateful eyes. The party attempts a long rest. Random encounter roll on a D100, 10% per hour over 8 hours. Rolls 54. 5 hours into the rest, Slipknot communicates to Fodinas that some sort of creatures are moving through the tunnel from the north. Fodinas silently alerts the group to be as quiet as possible. The party make stealth checks versus DC 10 perception check. Roll 22, 10, 16, 14, 15, 18, and 23. Sister and Slipknot both get a view of another patrol of fiery lizards walking through the tunnel. They stop and examine the door made of kite shields, push on it a few times, and then continue moving. After a few minutes, they are beyond the limits of the vision of the familiars. The party returns to rest. Random encounter roll D100, 10% per hour for 4 hours. Roll 59. The rest of the rest period goes undisturbed, and the party feels refreshed. Case and Fodinas remove the kite shield door, and the familiars return to their masters. Malaysia and Theophania place the door and extra kite shields in the far corner of the room. The party eats a ration each. Malaysia casts Produced Flame multiple times. Malaysia and Peace, hiding behind the kite shield door in the corner, boil water for tea, which Peace serves to everyone before they head out. Malaysia makes a history check, advantage, elemental fire lore. Rolls 20.
I would like to suggest that we quickly explore the rest of this corridor and then return to the ship for regrouping. Those creatures were, I believe, fire mutes, and they are fiercely territorial. It may be simply colonizing the warmth from this volcano in these tunnels, or this could be something more sinister.
Malaysia pauses in his discussion and wrings his hands.
What do you mean, Malaysia?
Peace looks up from pouring tea and frowns.
When I was detained in the towers to the northeast of Pythilia, I spent as much time as I could reading about fire magic and elemental fire and fire-based creatures. I was hoping to find a way home, you see. There was a journal there from an ancient wizard who was obsessed with the subject and had all sorts of fascinating anecdotal tales. One of them was about fire mutes being recruited by other elemental creatures of fire to guard and patrol newly built lairs around volcanoes because of the rich resources that can be found there. It wasn't specific, but there was at least 2 different accounts. One was an Imolith, and the other a rogue fire elemental. And then there is Imex. That's their god. And when he's around, volcanoes form.
Malaysia wrings his hands again and his hair flickers brightly.
But there are trees growing here, and precipitation must be falling from the clouds, from the sea. I don't think it's Imex. Among my people, the evil Prince of Fire is well known as a frightening bedtime story. This whole area would be dead and on fire. I think it's probably something else.
Inicel pats Malaysia on the back and smiles.
Well, I think we should get out of here soon and make a better plan on the ship.
Umgern nods at Malaysia's reiterated suggestion and motions for the group to move out. Sister, Slipknot, Hestia, and Filigree zip ahead of the party and vanish into rooms on either side. Vesper, Thought, and Vizal fly ahead as well. When the rooms appear empty, the party splits up to join their familiars. Umgern and Vizal examine a room with a similar stone and metal walls to the larger chamber, but with a tile mosaic floor. There are 2 skeletons here, and Umgern gathers them in a corner, arranges the bones as Inicel would, and then looks around. Umgern makes an investigation check. Advantage Vizal. Rolls 15. Umgern finds a similar hidden cabinet to the other rooms, but, unlike before, this one appears to be broken open with little more than dust and debris left behind. He returns to the main tunnel and continues forward. Fodinus and Slipknot enter a long, narrow room with stone and metal walls, which, on the north wall, are broken and pushed towards the middle of the room, while the south wall is flat. Fodinus makes an investigation check. Advantage Slipknot. Rolls 19. A decrepit piece of pottery sits in one corner, and 2 skeletons of humanoids are present. Nothing of value seems to be in this room. There is a narrow, natural tunnel out of the back of the room that leads into the natural caves. Fodinus prepares the bodies as Inicel would want, and then moves back into the main tunnel. Inicel enters a mostly square room with stone and metal walls. Sister scurries across the floor, up the wall, and across the collapsed ceiling. Inicel makes an investigation check. Advantage Sister. Rolls 17. The north wall has another secret cabinet like the other rooms that is locked. Inicel steps into the tunnel and whispers for Fodinus to join her. He nods and examines the wall chest after returning with her. Fodinus makes a traps check and a thieves' tool check. Rolls 20 and 27 critical. Fodinus finds a thin filament connected to the opening pin and severs it. He picks the lock easily and the cabinet creaks open. Inside, they see a sack made of cloth that seems intact, a wooden box, a metal ingot of some kind, and a ball of twine with a shiny silver hook on it. Fodinus and Inicel make Arcana and Intelligence checks. Roll 15 and 14, and then 13 and 15. Fodinus and Inicel agree that nothing particularly magical appears to be present, and they can take the contents for further investigation later. Fodinus receives 60 electrum pieces, 1,400 copper pieces, a deck of playing cards, a small ingot of electrum, and a tangled fishing line with a silver hook.
Inicel, there were bones in the rooms that Umgern and I checked, and we both prepared the bodies as you would.
She nods to Fodinus, completes the burial of the bodies in this room, and then leaves to take care of the others. Fodinus rejoins Umgern in the tunnel. Theophania and Filigree examine a somewhat large room with the stone and metal walls, most of which are broken or shattered in various places, making it appear unstable. There are 2 skeletons amid the dust and debris. Theophania makes an investigation check. Advantage Filigree. Rolls 10. Nothing of value seems to be present, and the large pottery jar in the corner is shattered into many pieces. There is a very narrow tunnel, only passable by Filigree, that leads to the natural caves with crystals. They return to the main tunnel after Theophania prepares the bones for Inicel. Case and Hestia enter a bizarre room with the same stone and metal walls and ornate mosaic floor, but mostly shattered and compressed walls that are crumbled in places. Although a few bones are present, they appear to be incomplete. Case makes an investigation check. Advantage Hestia. Rolls 20 critical. The room is easily searchable, and Hestia explores a narrow crevice to the northeast and finds a watertight oilcloth scroll case. She drags it to Case, who decides to share it with Malaysia for identification. Case receives a watertight scroll case, holds 5 scrolls, and 1 magic scroll of unknown type. Case and Hestia return to the tunnel. Malaysia and Vesper search a small room with stone and metal walls, which contains a humanoid skeleton and a corroded metal vessel. Malaysia makes an investigation check. Advantage Vesper. Rolls 24. After a thorough search, Malaysia decides there is nothing more of value in the room. He prepares the skeleton as Inicel would and returns to the main tunnel. Peace finds a somewhat larger, 6-arm span by 4-arm span room with stone and metal walls and an ornate tile mosaic floor. Thought walks across the floor, occasionally flapping its wings and picking through the dust as small insects scurry away from its beak. Peace makes an investigation check. Advantage Thought. Rolls 17. In the southwest corner of the room, Peace finds a similar magical storage vault like the other rooms. They pop their head into the tunnel and signal to Fodinus to come assist. Fodinus nods and returns to the room with Peace, immediately recognizing the cabinet like the others. Fodinus makes a traps check and a thieves' tools check. Rolls 19 and 25. There do not appear to be any traps around the chest, and Fodinus easily disengages the lock. Inside, they see a small pile of gold pieces, a perfectly smooth glass sphere covered in dust, and a small steel mirror. Fodinus nods and points at the contents and back at Peace. Peace collects the items in their bag. Peace receives 170 gold pieces, a glass sphere, and a small steel mirror. They return to the main tunnel and join the others. There is one side room remaining to be searched, and then the end of the tunnel opens into a somewhat circular space from which the party can already feel the heat from lava wafting into the main tunnel. Fodinus nods and checks the last room. Fodinus makes an investigation check. Advantage Slipknot. Rolls 19. In this 6-arm span by 6-arm span room, Fodinus notes that there is a large tunnel to the southeast heading into the crystal tunnels, as well as a humanoid skeleton in one corner. In the northeast corner, there is another of the hidden vaults. Fodinus makes a traps check and a thieves' tools check. Rolls 25 and 24. There is a steel wire attached to the opening mechanism that Fodinus easily disarms. He quickly picks the lock and opens the door to the hidden vault. Inside, there is a leather journal with well-preserved, high-quality vellum pages and an ornately cut blue sapphire. Fodinus calls Inicel, Peace, and Malaysia into the room.
Malaysia, can you see what this gem might be? It seems more than just a normal sapphire. Peace, please peruse this journal. Inicel, another skeleton.
He walks to the southeast tunnel and listens carefully into the darkness. Malaysia makes an arcana check. Rolls 27 critical.
Wow! This is an elemental gem. It's a blue sapphire, so that means you can summon an air elemental with it. May I keep it?
Fodinus nods and looks back down the hallway. Malaysia receives an elemental gem, blue sapphire.
This is written in Infernal, but it is quite complicated. However, from the way it is written and the notes and numbers, it looks to have been a series of magical or other research.
Peace pockets the journal. Peace receives a journal of infernal research notes. Everyone gathers in the main tunnel leading into the last large cave and waits for Inicel to finish her burials. After only a few minutes, she joins the group and smiles solemnly. Umgur nods and they proceed into the last room. This part of the tunnel is clearly very different from the way they came in. The floor, which slopes down at least 2 arm spans, appears to be granite near the entrance, but then seems to turn to obsidian in the smaller tunnels that lead away. Case, Peace, Umgur, Fodinus, and Inicel move into the smaller tunnels to get a closer look, each taking a branch. At the ends of the smaller tunnels, small pools of lava illuminate the furthest fingers of the cave. The heat is warm, but not unbearable. Theophania and Malaysia stay in the main part of the cave and look upward while waiting for the others. The top of the cave, unlike the prior rooms that were collapsed, appears to open up as it rises and ends high in darkness. Cliffs jutting out into the room about 4 arm spans above are barely visible. Malaysia casts Produce Flame repeatedly. Malaysia steps away from Theophania, produces a ball of flame in his hand, and hurls it up towards the ceiling. He repeats this a few times, illuminating the extent of the cavern and the size of the cliffs. As he throws a 4th ball of flame, a flash of blue skin, claws, and teeth comes into view for a moment. Malaysia steps back towards Theophania, who already has an arrow drawn.
Everybody back, now!
Malaysia throws another ball of flame directly at the creature, illuminating its enormous body, multiple legs, and long tail on the shelf 4 arm spans above. Everyone rolls for initiative. Theophania casts Hunter's Mark, attacks Bahir with 2 amethyst arrows, rolls 23 versus AC 17 for a hit for 7 piercing damage, 2 Hunter's Mark damage, and 17 force damage, teleports Bahir 30 feet into wall for 19 bludgeoning damage, rolls 10 critical for a miss. Theophania already has an amethyst gem arrow notched and squeezes the grip, causing a red halo to appear over the creature on the cliff. She launches the arrow, which sticks into its shoulder and explodes. The creature vanishes and reappears on the ground next to the west wall, forcibly thrown away from it. It screams in pain and anger as she attempts to launch another arrow, but her ammunition becomes entangled in the quiver and she can't shoot. Malaysia breaks Elemental Gem, commands it to attack Bahir. It makes 2 slam attacks, rolls 23 and 17 versus AC 17 for 2 hits for 22 bludgeoning damage. As Theophania's arrow strikes home, Malaysia realizes he is still holding the Elemental Gem. Without thinking, he shatters the gem and a large air elemental emerges. Malaysia points at the large blue beast and screams,
Attack!
The mass of living wind streaks towards the large beast and slams into it twice, causing the beast to roar and crackles of lightning to flash across its teeth. Umgren casts Searing Smite, makes 1 scimitar attack at Bahir, rolls 23 for 9 slashing damage and 9 fire damage. Bahir is on fire. Umgren, hearing the ruckus, moves back towards the main cave and finds a large creature blocking his way, as the creature had fallen from the cliff above to the lower chamber with its massive form. He murmurs several holy words, igniting his scimitar's main blade and brings it down on the beast's haunch. The cut bleeds and then catches fire. Peace spends 1 key point and makes 4 claw attacks at Bahir. Rolls 11, 8, 9, 22. 3 misses and 1 hit for 6 slashing damage. Peace hurries to their party's distress call, but finds the same tunnel blocked by the body of a large blue creature. They flex their claws and attack with as many blows as possible, but the tough skin of the beast is resistant, and only the last blow finally cuts into the flesh. Bahir makes con saving throw, DC 14 Searing Smite, uses Lightning Breath on Air Elemental, DC 16 Dex save. Rolls 23, save, spell ends. Rolls 61 lightning damage. Elemental rolls 20, saves 31 damage. The large blue creature, fearful of more slams from the mass of living air, twists and writhes its body, extinguishing the flames from Umgern's blade, faces the elemental, and unleashes a blast of lightning breath. The whirlwind seems to bend around the bolt of lightning and avoids most of the brunt of the hit, though it appears slightly smaller after the attack. Inacel casts Moonbeam directly on Bahir. Inacel enters the main chamber of the cave, with the elemental blocking her complete exit. She quickly murmurs druidic incantations, and a beam of radiant light engulfs the large blue creature. Vodinus makes 2 short-sword attacks sneak, targeting Bahir. Rolls 12 for a miss and 27 for a hit, for 13 piercing damage. Vodinus hurries to Malaysia's call and sees the large beast illuminated by radiant light and blocking the tunnels that Peace and Umgren took. He rushes the beast and lunges his short sword into its side, sinking one blade at least a hand's length into its tough hide. Case attacks Bahir with spear, ranged, advantage, distance. Bonus action, dancing longsword, moves into melee with Bahir. Rolls 12 for a miss and rolls 10 for a miss. Case sees the creature from his tunnel and hurls his spear at its chest, but the tip bounces off. He tosses his longsword into the air and it moves to the beast and takes a swipe, but also bounces off the tough hide. Not discouraged, Case rushes next to the creature and prepares to strike again. Theophania moves into melee with Bahir, makes 3 short sword attacks, rolls 17, 16, and 12 for 1 hit for 5 piercing damage. Theophania sees that her quiver is a mess and switches to her short swords, charging the beast and taking wild swings. She lands only one, slicing one of its legs lightly. Malaysia uses Wand of Magic Missile, 4 charges, commands Air Elemental to attack Bahir. Rolls 16 force damage. Air Elemental rolls 14 and 16, both misses. Malaysia pulls out his Wand of Magic Missiles and fires 6 glowing darts directly into the creature's face, knocking it about with force and causing it to roar in anger. He commands the Air Elemental to attack again, but his forceful slams meet with the parry of the beast's tail and seem ineffective. Umgren casts Searing Smite, attacks Bahir with Scimitar, rolls 16 for a miss. Umgren sees his flames extinguish on the beast's side and again murmurs several holy words, igniting his scimitar's main blade. He slashes at the beast again, but the blade bounces off of its thick hide. Peace spends 1 key point and makes 4 claw attacks at Bahir. Rolls 23, 21, 9, and 23 for 19 slashing damage. Peace, undeterred by their ineffective first attack, again attacks with as many blows as possible, this time landing 3 deep cuts with their claws and drawing copious blood. Behir makes Lightning Breath recharge roll, makes DC 15 con save versus Moonbeam, uses Lightning Breath, half is Air Elemental, Theophania, and Malage. Rolls 5, recharges Lightning Breath. Rolls 22, saves, takes 8 radiant damage. Rolls 44, lightning damage. DC 16 dex saving throws, 22, Air Elemental for 11 damage, 4 for Malage, 44 damage, and 26 Theophania for 22 damage. The large blue lizard shakes his head and his mouth flares with electrical sparks. It shifts its position away from the radiant beam but can avoid its light completely. The creature turns to the air elemental again and unleashes its blue electrical breath, which catches Theophania, the elemental, and Malage, though they all dodge slightly out of the way, still feeling the surge of electrical pain. Malage, barely able to move from the pain and the burns to his body, falls to the floor of the cave and curls into a ball. Inacel screams a loud, ferocious lizard roar. Inacel moves into melee with Behir, makes a scimitar attack, uses Hungry Jaws, rolls 15 and 9, both misses. With the elemental shrinking from the lightning attacks, Inacel runs past it to the large lizard, desperate to destroy it for harming the little one, and slashes with her scimitar and bites with her teeth, but the beast deftly moves its hindquarters away, avoiding both attacks. Fodinus makes 2 short sword attacks, sneak, rolls 29 critical for 16 piercing damage plus 24 sneak attack damage. Fodinus leaps up onto the creature's back and brings his short sword down into the nape of its neck, stabbing through to the front of its throat. A small burst of electrical energy escapes its mouth, and then it collapses. Inacel and Umgurn rush over to Malage, who is barely conscious. Umgurn uses Lay on Hands for 25 hit points on Malage. Inacel uses Potion of Greater Healing on Malage, rolls 17 hit points. The party receives 1100 experience. Umgurn places both of his hands on Malage's face, utters words of prayer, and the life-restoring energy rushes into the Genasi. Malage sits up slowly and finds a flask at his lips in the hands of Inacel, which she forces him to drink. With the burns on his body resolving and his strength returning, Malage stands, dusts off his coat, smiles at the party, and walks to the body of the creature. He nods to Theophania, who joins him. Umgurn and Inacel smile, shaking their heads in disbelief at the fiery Genasi's plasticity. Malage makes a nature check, advantage assisted by Theophania. Rolls 23.
I am pretty sure this is called a Behir. They are bitter enemies of dragons, so whatever made this volcano, it wasn't a dragon. Their scales are quite valuable, as is that horn. It's like a dragon detector. We should be able to extract the Behir's lightning sac with Theophania's use as well.
Malage motions to Fodinus, who already has his daggers drawn, as Malage pulls out his chest of preserving. Theophania begins harvesting the scales. Case moves next to Malage.
Can we eat it?
His mouth seems to water and slurs as he speaks.
Unfortunately, no. There would be quite a lot, but it would likely have a vile taste and it could make you sick. But with this much carcass, there will be predators, and those fire newts will certainly eat it. They actually sometimes eat each other.
Case stops smacking his lips, looks at Malage horrified, and turns away.
Umgurn, Peace, Inacel, let's search this cave while they work on that.
Peace laughs and Inacel begins scaling the wall up to the cliff. Inacel, Peace, Umgurn, and Case make acrobatics or athletic checks. Roll 17, 25, 15, and 22. Inacel climbs adeptly up the wall, as does Umgurn, and they are at the top after a few moments. Case and Peace are waiting for them as both cats scale the wall in seconds. Inacel illuminates her scimitar, revealing a flat, 2-arm-span wide lip in the cave, about 5 arm spans from the floor, which was likely where the Behir teleported from after Theophania's first shot. Inacel, Peace, Umgurn, and Case make investigation checks, advantage time spent. Roll 7, 16, 13, and 17. Inacel finds fragments of an arrow and some recent shattered stone, confirming the Behir was initially here when Theophania struck it. Umgurn notes that the shelf is about 2 arm spans wide, but only covers about half the circumference of the cave below, and there is a tunnel exiting to the east. Peace and Case move to the tunnel and see that it is just a small, shallow cave filled with debris, bones, and other objects. Inacel moves over to join them, and the light from her scimitar causes glittering sparkles within the debris that Case and Peace easily notice. They smile at each other and begin picking through the rubble. They hand bones to Inacel, anything of interest to Umgurn, and make a pile of refuse to the side. After half an hour, the space is entirely empty. Case and Peace, filthy with dirt and grime, turn back to their colleagues. Inacel makes a medicine check, rolls 22.
Very good, my cat friends. I have determined that there were 8 recent humanoid skeletons in this nest, all lizard folk, which I assume were fire newts. There are older bones that are harder to place, but some of them are remarkably similar to the ancient skeletons we found in the rooms. I don't think the Behir killed them. I think it just dragged them here.
Umgurn makes an Arcana check, rolls 8.
Nothing appears arcane or magical to me, but I'm not the person to ask. These weapons look like the Fire Meat's scimitars and parts of their shields, but they are mostly destroyed. I think we should place them with the bodies. There are a significant number of coins and gems, and then there are just random things which may have come from the rooms we already searched.
Umgurn begins loading everything into his bag of holding. Umgurn receives 60 platinum pieces, 2,400 gold pieces, 6,000 silver pieces, 700 copper pieces, a bloodstone plate engraved with dwarven runes, a fine leather scabbard tooled with floral vines, a marble bust of a raven adorned with a pearl, a silver ring brooch set with a black opal, an agate brazier set with a single blue sapphire, an ivory comb engraved with arcane runes, an ornate silver mirror, and some sort of great axe. Peace steps forward and watches the items carefully as Umgurn places them in his bag. They reach for a few of them and turn them over in their paws, and then return them. Case squats next to him, watching. Peace makes an intelligence check, rolls 20, critical.
We have a theory about what may have happened here. The Fire Newts are scouting and guarding this area for someone, likely not the Behir, but they found the Behir, and it got a few of them. But Behir and Fire Newts both speak Draconic, if we are not mistaken. We think they struck a truce and brought these items from the rooms in this ruin as offerings. Following Malaysia's thoughts before, the Fire Newts are certainly not working for a dragon, because the Behir would never agree to a peace. But a Behir fears little, and agreeing to a peace with lesser creatures that it can easily kill can only mean one thing. There is something far more sinister and powerful in these caves. Let's report back to the others and take a day to rest and think on this.
Peace stands quickly, moves to the edge of the cliff, and vanishes over the side. Inacel completes her burial placements. Inacel casts Mold Earth multiple times. She moves all of the dirt and debris over the bodies and gathers some additional dirt and piles it on top, filling the cave almost to the ceiling. Umgurn pats her on the shoulder and they return to the cave floor. Malaysia, Theophania, and Fodinas appear to be finished with their work. The skinless beast fills half the room. Umgurn sighs.
What are we going to do with all of that?
He pokes at the flesh with his scimitar.
I have an idea.
Malaysia takes Umgurn's hand and leads him to the end of one of the small tunnels off the main cave where there is a small pool of cooling lava that glows faintly.
I think there is lava seeping in, but there is more behind these walls. If we set a few dynamite charges at the end of a couple of these caves, the lava would flow in and fill the room. That would consume the body. Because of the lower floor that slopes down here, I think it will pool and stay in the cave. Inacel can also build up a wall of dirt, and we can move stones to dam it here.
Umgurn looks at Malaysia curiously and places his hand on the wall. It feels hot to the touch. He nods. They rejoin the others and share the plan. Inacel casts Mold Earth multiple times. Inacel immediately begins gathering loose dirt, debris, and grime from other rooms in the tunnel and mounting a 2-arm span high dam at the entrance of the cave. Case, Fodinas, and Peace gather all of the pots, pottery, and any other loose, heavy items or stones from the rooms and pile it against the wall of the debris. At the same time, Malaysia selects 5 sticks of dynamite and places them in 5 of the small tunnels with a fuse long enough that he can see them from the middle of the cave. Once the dam is complete, Malaysia enacts the plan. Malaysia makes 5 firebolt attacks, DC 10, rolls 21, 24, 17, 18, and 10. Over 30 seconds, Malaysia releases 5 bolts of fire down each tunnel, sparking the fuses to life. When the last one ignites, he runs to the wall. Malaysia makes an acrobatics check, rolls 21. Malaysia's feet find stable dirt step after step, and he mounts the dam and lands on the other side easily. After a few seconds, the first stick explodes, causing the cave to rumble and stone and debris to begin cascading down into the tunnel. The other sticks explode several seconds later in sequence with more rumbling and rubble. As the party watches from the back of the dam, bright orange glowing lava begins flowing from the tunnels. Within a few minutes, a pool has formed around the Bahir, and its flesh begins to melt into the hot royal. Within half an hour, the lava fills the cave, and the Bahir's carcass is gone, but not without a distinctly disgusting smell and considerable smoke that filled the upper parts of the cavern. The lava stops flowing a few inches from the bottom of the dam and seems to have stopped. The party watches for another few minutes and feels comfortable that the flow has stabilized.
Inicel casts Mold Earth multiple times. Malaysia casts Thunderwave twice.
Inicel begins spreading the dirt and debris over the lava, which has started to cool. After a few minutes, the dam has been deconstructed, and a layer of 2 handspans of dirt and debris covers the first 2 armspans of lava, slowly smoking and collapsing as it absorbs the heat and solidifies the crust. Malaysia murmurs arcane words and slaps his hands together in a twisting motion, producing a blast of thunder that pushes the heavy items and stone over the lava where they sink lightly. He repeats the process and the tunnel floor is clear. The lava for 2 arm spans from the entrance is now covered, and the rest of the chamber glows with warm heat.
Let's get out of here.
The party moves quickly back down the long tunnel and into the green, overgrown entrance. It is mid-morning, and the sky is bright as they exit. Vesper, Thought, and Vizal fly very high above the entrance and begin circling. Malaysia launches firebolts continuously into the air for about a minute. With the signal sent, the party heads back towards the pickup point. As they pass the sunken tower, Malaysia perks up.
If we need to, we can always camp there.
After speaking, the little genasi collapses to the ground. Inicel runs over to him.
Malaysia suffers 2 levels of exhaustion.
He's fainted from exhaustion.
Inicel and Case lift the genasi and place him on Theophania's cart. The party solemnly strides back towards the pickup spot without speaking, thoughts of what could have happened today clouding their mind. After trekking back across the forest and to the edge of the sand, the party is greeted by the lonely lady descending to the sand in front of them. They quickly load everything, and the captain takes the ship out over the water, with the volcano still visible in the distance.
So, what did you learn about that thing?
Captain Fishtwain and his crew all sit around a table below deck with the group a few hours later. The kobolds are in the galley cooking and singing. Umgern looks towards the galley and back at the captain.
Aye, they fell in love with fishing and wanted to cook a meal for you after I taught them last night. So?
Umgern grins and the party laughs.
In brief, something sinister and likely of a fiery origin is inhabiting the caves and tunnels of the ruin. What we have explored so far appears to be an ancient street with poorer quality and fire quality buildings along it, but the entire street was consumed by the rocks around it. Many other buildings outside the mountain look similar. Something opened the ground and swallowed whatever was here, but whatever is inhabiting the tunnels now is new, likely drawn by the volcano.
More the source.
Inicel frowns and drums her claws on the table.
Or the source. Whatever it is, a Bahir was willing to make peace with it out of fear, we think.
Umgern nods to Peace, who smiles and pours tea for everyone. The galley door opens and the kobolds enter carrying platters of food. One platter has fried fish, one platter has steamed fish, and the third is a large bowl of steaming fish soup. Everyone's eyes grow wide as the smell of the food wafts across their noses. Case begins drooling. Circa steps forward.
We are delighted to serve you this fish that we caught ourselves this morning and hope you enjoy it.
All of the kobolds bow deeply and then squeeze in around the table at various spots. Within a few minutes, everyone has ample food in front of them and is tucking into their meal. The fried fish is super crispy and has a spicy coating. The steamed fish is thick and juicy. The soup has a variety of small sea meats and chunks of fish with a savory, salty broth. There is little talking and mostly moaning and sighing as the food is consumed. After the food is consumed and the cups of ale are all gone, Flordinas leans back from the table and smiles.
Of course, there are 2 more tunnel entrances, and signs of excavation, and in the crystal caves. It'd be very interesting. Certainly was going to be very dangerous.
Everyone nods slowly. One by one, people step away from the table and return to their duties. Only Malaysia and Umgurn remain.
Are you going to be okay, little one? You know that you almost died today. If I thought that you would listen to me, I would make you rest here for a few days.
Umgurn sighs and places his hands flat on the table, tapping them up and down slowly. Malaysia looks up.
I know I should have kept my distance. I saw its first attack on the elemental, and it seemed unfazed. It was really stupid of me.
Malaysia drops his head to the table in disgust.
My little fire friend, you are many things, but no one is ever going to call you stupid. Brave, brilliant, excited, determined. Yes, you are those things, but nothing you do is stupid. If you hadn't released the elemental, that first blast of lightning from the Bahir would have torn through the rest of us. Distracting it was likely what saved many of us from an otherwise horrible death.
Umgurn smiles and grabs the Genasi's hands and squeezes them. His hair flickers with amber and orange fire, and his eyes glow with glee. He nods and smiles.
Now, let's get some rest and get ourselves sorted before we head back, okay?
With no immediate danger or rush to return to the caves of Sayne, the group decides that a solid day of rest and returning to the caves in the early morning the following day would be ideal. In that regard, they engage in various downtime and rest activities. Inacel repeats her motherly instinct to reduce individual burdens of items that are probably not needed, as well as placing perishables in more permanent storage in the lockers below. She also suggests that a significant amount of coins and gems should be stored away because certain creatures may be drawn to them. Malaysia keeps a black opal to use as a heart for a homunculus servant should he choose to create one. Everyone else agrees, and she works with each person to put the excess coins in a secure locker and properly store any excess items or valuables. Malaysia empties the magical chest and keeps the key. He notes that there are many possible magical items that they have collected since their journey began, and he hasn't had time to study them. He pulls them all out of storage and studies all of the items carefully. Malaysia makes an Arcana check, casts Identify, and/or spends one short rest with each possible magic item, 11 items identified total. Over a few hours, Malaysia is able to determine that they have found a crystal ball, a hat of wizardry, a quarterstaff +2, a necklace of adaptation, a hellfire dagger, an enduring spellbook, an orb of time, a spell scroll that contains the 5th level spell Transmute Rock, a manual of gainful exercise, a bag of beans, a drift globe, a berserker's great axe, and a figurine of wondrous power of an onyx dog. He describes each of the items as best he understands them to the group during a meal and suggests that Fodinas take the necklace of adaptation to improve his ability to sneak into unfriendly places. Umgurn takes the orb of time to keep the group oriented as they adventure. Malaysia will take the transmute rock scroll. Case should use the manual of gainful exercise, and Theophania should take the drift globe. The rest of the items are either of little use to the party or very dangerous. Everyone nods, but Peace frowns curiously at Malaysia.
Firebrand, we agree with your suggestions, but we wonder about the size of this onyx dog. Could one of us use it as a mount in an emergency?
Malaysia ponders it for a moment, scratches his head, and stands up. He walks over to Peace and motions for them to stand as well. He looks at the cat up and down and looks at himself, his mind spinning. Malaysia makes an intelligence check, rolls 10.
You know, I'm not sure. I think I would be too big for a mastiff, but I'm unsure if you could. You were shorter and lighter, and more agile. You are welcome to try, but no promises.
Peace nods in agreement. Malaysia distributes the items to everyone. Inacel takes the rest and secures them in one of the chests below. Fodinas, Case, and Umgurn spend considerable time on the deck training with the kobolds in hand-to-hand combat, sparring techniques, and general exercise. The kobolds are very quick and agile, and when they fight together, mercilessly accurate with their strikes. Case praises them highly, which makes the creatures ecstatic. Umgurn, however, still does not want to risk them on the ground, as he feels bonded to Inacel and Fodinas' request to protect them and return them to Oldestal. The kobolds reluctantly accept his decision, but happily return to their duties on the ship. Theophania makes some adjustments to her quiver in hopes of avoiding the entanglement that happened in the caverns. She stops Malaysia in the afternoon before returning to the caves the following morning.
Malaysia, the trick in the lava cave to fill it with lava made me think about something possibly clever that you could assist me with. Might we attach sticks of dynamite to some arrows? If we had had that in the cavern, I could have simply fired them from the mound of dirt rather than you having to scramble back.
Malaysia pauses for a moment, drops what he's doing, and rushes to the storage area. He returns with 10 sticks of dynamite, oilcloth, and several types of rope, string, and twine. He opens his bag and pulls out all of his tools.
Let me have 10 of your arrows.
Theophania removes them from her quiver and hands them to Malaysia. Malaysia makes an intelligence check and a tinker skills check. Rolls 12 and 9. He spends the better part of an hour trying to affix the stick of dynamite to the shaft, but simply doesn't seem to be able to make it work. He drops everything and stands up angry.
Hold on a minute.
He leaves the work area, tools, materials, and arrows strewn about and vanishes on the upper deck. After about 5 minutes, he returns with the rest of the party.
I want a way to attach sticks of dynamite to Theophania's arrows so they are secure, they don't inhibit flight, and she can easily launch them from her bow. I've got all my tools and some stuff, but nothing I'm trying seems to work.
The party looks at the materials, the dynamite, and the arrow and begin making suggestions. Malaysia makes an intelligence check and a tinker tools check, advantage party's assistance. Rolls 20 and 9. After hearing several suggestions, Malaysia slaps his hands together, having gleaned a brilliant idea from their thoughts, and attempts to attach the dynamite in that manner. When he's done, he holds up the arrow and the stick falls off. His hair immediately bursts into flames with anger, and Theophania picks him up and rushes to the other side of the room with the flaming genasi to avoid any sparks on the dynamite. She sits him down and he crosses his arms angrily and returns to the upper deck. Everyone else files out and returns to the deck as well, except for Fodinas. Fodinas sits down where Malaysia was working and reconsiders the idea Malaysia just attempted of rolling the dynamite in oilcloth, wrapping the oilcloth around the shaft, and then using a series of 6 pieces of small string to tightly tie it in place. He looks at Theophania, smiles, and taps his brooch.
Maybe what we need is a little luck.
Fodinas makes a tinker tools check, advantage, dex mod only, not proficient, brooch. Rolls 23. Using Malaysia's plan, Fodinas manages to dexterously secure the oilcloth-wrapped stick to the shaft and tie the strings of twine tight enough. He holds up the arrow, shakes it vigorously, and the stick stays in place. He smiles at Theophania, who shakes her head. Fodinas suddenly frowns.
He's going to be so mad, isn't he?
Well, let's just not tell him.
Theophania picks up the arrow, feels its weight, and adds it to her quiver. Fodinas repeats this method 9 more times.
You can't not tell him.
Fodinas smiles devilishly at Theophania, laughs, and heads back up to the top of the deck. Enosel spends the rest of her free time carving wooden trinkets and focuses on little busts of each of her party members. Enosel makes 6 wood carving tools checks, rolls 10, 18, 13, 24, 14, and 12. Spending some time with each piece, she manages to get a rough likeness of each of them with a very good bust of Fodinas and a stunning bust of Theophania. She affixes each of them to her net cape proudly and wears it to dinner the night before they return to the caverns. Peace spends almost all of their time studying the books that were found with the flame skull and in the magical chest. At the same dinner where Enosel wears her formal netting, Peace explains the books in brief.
The Flame Skull was a sorcerer before he died and, as best we can tell, did so some 3,000 Isvarana ago. That would precede Sayne's modern founding and destruction. The language of the journal is difficult because it is written in a dialect using an alphabet that is not quite our own. Still, it appears he was a decent person and a highly accomplished sorcerer. Our guess is that some other spellcaster found his grave, which likely contained his journal, and made the Flame Skull. That is typically done to protect something, but this one was locked away with its journal. We don't think there is anything more to learn, but perhaps in Pathelia, a diviner can learn more from the skull itself.
Everyone smiles or frowns, but all nod.
This infernal journal is absolutely fascinating. The person who wrote it was something of a rebellious tiefling arcanist that dabbled in very strange experiments at first glance. They combined alchemy with transmutation, divination with necromancy, and evocation with conjuration. But much of the writing is the person's thoughts and opinions, which were, in a word, bizarre. We were able to find a few dates in the journal, and it seems that some of the entries could possibly have been after the Centerofuse attack. Our feeling is that this person was likely driven mad by the attacks, and the journal is sort of their ravings from an addled brain. None of the magic they document should ever be attempted, as the results could be extremely dangerous.
Peace pauses and drinks a long sip of tea. Malaysia has a curious look on his face with a deep frown.
Do you think Kalia would have any insights?
Peace cocks their head to the side and sighs.
Likely yes, but we think more for historical purposes. The king would certainly be wise enough to lock this away from prying eyes.
Malaysia nods and chews on a piece of bread.
The remaining 14 books that were in the chest are quite interesting and give a solid account of the nearly entire history of Sayne from its modern founding, as well as several accounts of the other cities in the Blight. There is one seafaring traveler's account of the seas to the north and around the Lothal Peninsula east of Devonmere, which speaks of incredibly large lizard-like beasts that overrun that area. Some of them appear to swim to nearby lands. We think that explains the large beast we encountered in the river in Phila. We should certainly give these to historical scholars of Phila because they will certainly learn much more than we could.
Peace concludes and stands to begin pouring more tea for everyone else. Case smiles very proudly and rubs Peace's back as they pass by. After the long dinner, everyone returns to their beds to rest and prepare for the return to the caverns the following morning. The spellcasters consider the challenges from the last venture into the caves and modify their prepared spells. In the early morning, while everyone prepares and eats a hearty breakfast brought to them by the kobolds, Theophania loads her cart with a few additional items that she feels they might need. Thank you for visiting Engedrian. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you're enjoying our adventure. We can't wait to hear what happens next.